Okay, hello. This is my first video in like 2 months. So I'm sorry I made a video about how I was gone at camp for 7 weeks, yesterday. I didn't make the video, I made the video, about 10 days ago, but then I went on vacation, so, I couldn't publish or make videos, but now I'm back. Now actually expect new videos. So here we have coastal U.S. states versus non-coastal U.S. states. The Great Lakes states don't count as coast because that would be unfair, and it's not the coast. Yeah, that's it. The coastal states have a slightly larger advantage. They have obviously a larger navy. It's pretty obvious, but they have more people. They have wealthier region. Yeah, actually, I don't know if it's wealthier. But yeah, it still could go either way if the sides play it correct. We're also pretending this is the actual position of Alaska and Hawaii. And yeah, so in the beginning of this, both sides form a plan. The pink sides, the coastal sides plan is basically to connect their western territories with their eastern territories, to allow, before the blue team is able to cut off the western territories, which would be a big deal. So whichever side is able to do that probably would win the war. However, the western side isn't entirely cut off, as Alaska and Hawaii are right there, so they can kind of like island hop if they want to get to go from there to there to there to there. If they want to get to the west. The blue team also hopes to launch an invasion from like the Philly area, in hopes of like cutting off like here, in hopes of cutting off the northeast. So yeah, those are the two hopes, and obviously the other side will try to counter it. So to start off, Vermont falls. Yeah, Vermont never stood a chance. That was not that hard. So the pink team, they decided to send most of the troops. So they didn't think of this Pennsylvania idea to try to cut off the two sides, because they didn't like see it. I don't know why. So they sent most of the troops down south to Texas to hopefully start a push into the west, while the blue team sending most of the troops up north and east, leaving the route for Idaho. For Idaho to fall. Because troops weren't defending it, as well as Montana. Yeah. However, and then troops started gathering along this Texan border. However, the blue team saw a major success. They were able to cross the, Delaware River, I believe. They were able to cross the Delaware River into New Jersey, and, they marched into Wilmington, causing Delaware to actually fall, the whole state, which is pretty big, leaving a gap in the blue team, as well as southern New Jersey fell, up to Atlantic City, meaning the blue team now had the northeast cut off. So they wanted to take advantage of this as soon as possible. With much of the troops in the northeast, the only troops that were left in the northeast were the ones that invaded Vermont, which was a decently large force. However, the blue team has completely cut them off. They also use every bit of navy they have to control this area. So basically, the blue team takes advantage of the fact that the pink team's cut off and pushes up into northern New Jersey, eventually causing the state to fall with the capture of Newark. They obviously can't push right into New York, so they instead begin an invasion into western New York. They push up, spearhead they spearhead at Rochester. Troops have been sent down to defend like New York and the New England area. So, they surround Rochester, and the city falls. This part of New York eventually does surrender. And one major front line is set up along the Hudson River. So there's obviously the Hudson River, there's Lake Champlain, a lot of water that is kind of stopping an invasion force. And then there's obviously mountains. So the only way to cross would be to obviously cross the river. So the pink team sends a bunch of their navy up by the river. By the way, while this is happening, the blue team has much of their force in the northeast. So the pink team is able to use this advantage, and they actually managed to take out the entire state of New Mexico, meaning that the two sides have almost met up. And however, there's still very few troops out here in like the west or in the east. So this peninsula, the blue team manages to take over Maryland and all of this peninsula, including the Virginian part. This strengthens the region they've cut off. Yeah, and they also managed to cross the Hudson River south of Albany, cross the river, and they start a spearhead towards Boston, and the city is put under siege. Eventually, the blue side starts surrounding it. They managed to take out Rhode Island, officially cutting the New York area off from the rest of New England, and vice versa. And in New Hampshire, I don't really know, they are stopped. Is there even a city there? Yeah, Hampton, New Hampshire. Yeah, no, screw that. Boston's been under siege. From there, Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire, most of it surrenders. They're actually, because they surrender, they're given their own country. However, it is aligned with the blue team. That's not permanent. From there, troops eventually do manage to march into Boston, taking the city, leaving only the New York area. So the way this works, force pushes down from the south. They march all the way to New Haven, and eventually they just take the city, Long Island, blah 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 blah, Manhattan. They decide to surrender instead of fighting. They could have kept fighting, and that probably would have been helpful, but they didn't. So that's a big success for the blue team. Now they're able to focus more of their troops down in the west. However, so they decide to send many of their troops. By the way, Wyoming had been captured in the time that it took to capture those like New England areas. Not very eventful. So they decide to send many of their troops to Arizona to help with Arizona and Colorado to help defend the cutoff. And the blue team sees this coming. They obviously, because now they have a lot more troops to spare, so they decide to take advantage of the fact that the blue team has many of their troops in like this area, and they decide to cut off another way. So the western part launches an invasion into Nebraska and South Dakota, which is really easy. They just take it. Meanwhile, an invasion into Oklahoma, and because this is very near Texas, which is a large center of everything, Oklahoma is easily able to be taken over, meaning a huge portion of troops most of the troops actually are trapped within this little corridor in like Arizona, Colorado, and Nevada. So the troops there, there's a spearhead established in Kansas. That's not what happens. Where's Topeka? You know what? Topeka's right there for the sake of this video. And a spearhead is established. Both sides start pushing in, and they hope to meet up at Topeka. There's still many troops are trapped in Arizona and Colorado, so a bunch of troops managed to arrive in Topeka right before a cutoff. However, it's not enough to hold out the two sides, and eventually the city does fall. So a bunch of troops are now trapped over here. And the West now has a bunch of the coastal states now have a bunch of their troops in, what's it called? They now have a bunch of their troops in the like middle of the country. And so this is gonna be a bad battle, especially because it's very mountainous in like this region. So that's not good. However, they can push in from all sides. This is still a narrow connection, so it's not very good. And the blue team launches many counteroffensives in hopes of taking back this area. And due to the fact that they have a ton of troops over here, they actually do make some progress, and they are in the outskirts of Topeka. However, that's only a little less than halfway. You know, Topeka isn't there. I just realized, you know what, screw this. A city, I don't even care whether Topeka is the city, a city. Let's, you know, that's, Topeka's there for the sake of this video. And they're very close to taking back the city and reversing the cutoff. However, it does not work, and the pink team is able to strongly hold on. In the meantime, with many troops now focused on the Kansas area, the pink team starts an invasion on the Mexican border. Troops from Southern California and New Mexico finally meet up and then establish one mega front. In Arizona, troops try to rush to help. However, it's no use, as Phoenix is surrounded with troops pushing in from all sides, and eventually it surrenders. This is bad now, because now many troops are truly surrounded. However, the troops from the east have started to come back, and they are now able to break this cutoff, and they have reconnected these two areas. So the pink team really has a choice here, or the blue team has a choice. They could either choose to withdraw all their troops and focus on like the east, or they could try to defend this area, and they go with the defending area. So they want to take out this Midwest region, and by that they want to, not the Midwest, like this area, and by that they want to cut it off via Idaho. So in a surprise move, they actually launch a very fast invasion into Idaho. This is obviously unexpected, as who would expect an invasion into Idaho instead of trying to counter the pink advance? So they managed to cut off this western region at Idaho, and so first of all, the pink team does take advantage of this by capturing Tennessee and Arkansas, as many troops have left those two, why am I doing it in blue? You know what, as many troops have now left that area. These are actually pretty big, as these are two relatively decently sized states. So good for them. However, the push, there's not many troops, with the exception of North Dakota, there's not many troops in the area that was surrounded, so the blue team is easily able to take it back. And, North Dakota does, no, that's not North Dakota, that's Kansas. It does fall. So that's big. I'm actually gonna end this part 1 here. It's been a while. Nothing's really happened, but okay. Yeah. Part 2.